What's up, guys? Welcome into Cover 7. We got another game-by-game prediction video today. We're talking about the Washington Huskies, a team that really nobody's talking about in 2026, which is kind of shocking to me. You guys will know at the end of the video, I'll go game by game, give you a win-loss here at the end of the year, what I think Washington will finish as. But before I get into it, I want to take a minute here. I don't ask for a lot on this channel. I really don't. I have a full-time job. I work my ass off, just like a majority of you guys do. But if you could give this a thumbs up, man, it's completely free. It helps me out a ton. It puts this video out because I love having interactions with other fans of other teams, right? Like I love hearing about what somebody else has to say about Washington. I don't come on here claiming to be an expert by any means. I'm a Husker fan. I do follow college football as a whole pretty closely, but I don't know everything. Like I said, I'll never claim that. But yeah, if you could do that, it would be great, guys. Like I said, I do truly appreciate all the support over here. With that being said, let's talk about last year, though, real quickly in 2025. I said Washington was going to be good last year. I didn't know how good, man. They went 9-4. That's a pretty damn good year. My Huskers have been struggling to try to win 6 games. It took them 10 years to win 6 a couple years ago. God, the last time they won 9 might have been like 2013. It's been a long time. Not easy to win 9 games. Washington did that last year. They won their bowl game over Boise State. I think it was the LA Bowl or something like that. You know, they did lose to Ohio State early in the year. I remember doing that game on this channel, and I knew the game was going to be close, man. They played them pretty tough. Washington played them at home, and they played them pretty tough. I think Ohio State won that game like 24-6. Obviously, Ohio State had a really good defense, but I was very impressed with Washington for 3.5 quarters of that game. I thought they played really well. I thought they were a decent team. They lost to Michigan, a game I thought they probably could have won, but they didn't. And then they had one bad loss, and that was to Wisconsin. Wisconsin was terrible last season. They did lose that game, and then they lost to Oregon at the end of the year. Oregon, as we know, ended up being one of the better teams in the country. So, like I said, pretty good year there. Jedd Fisch, the guy at the helm. I like Jedd Fisch. I've been on top of Jedd Fisch that sounded really incredibly gay. I have been on Jedd Fisch since, his time at Arizona. I thought he was a really good coach there. I liked what he did. And I think he went, God, what did he go at Arizona? I think he was only there for like 3 years. He was like 37-15 or something like that. Did a really good job. Took the head coaching job, left by DeBoer in 2024. They went 6-7 that year, a couple years ago, and then turned around and got him to 9 wins last year. So, like I said, the trajectory, he's always moving up in the win-loss column. And I think that's an indication of a really good coach. I like him. He doesn't get talked about near enough, but I like him. The interesting thing with him is he's calling the plays. There's not a lot of head coaches doing that anymore, which is kind of weird. But whatever you think about that, I know some people hate that. They think the coach should just be the head coach and it's a separate, CEO type of role. And some guys still do call their plays. I think Sarkisian still does it, I believe. I know Billy Napier did it, which was dumb. He should have never been calling plays for Florida. But I know there's a few out there still doing it. But Jedd Fisch, we'll see if he can continue to grow to be an offensive coordinator while, maintaining being the head coach. A lot of stuff on his plate there. All right, let's get into it here, though. Let's talk about one thing how I kind of base these records off of. I know people have asked that question. How do you do this, right? I look at a couple things. Your head coach. 2 is your quarterback coming back, your offensive line, and then overall just returning production. I think that's huge in college football. I've talked about this several times. A couple guys I use as coaches that I don't really think are coaches at all is Mike Norvell and Deion Sanders. They flip their team over each and every year. Yes, I understand the transfer portal. I get guys are getting paid nowadays. I understand that. I get there's going to be more movement, but like they flip their entire roster over. It never works is what I'm getting at. I think to maintain long-term success, you got to retain players and still use the high school recruiting as a huge tool there. So Washington returns 10 starters. 7 of them come back on offense. Demond Williams, the quarterback, really good player. Liked him last year, had a really good year, I thought. I think he has a lot of experience now coming into year 2, I think. I think he's going to be pretty good this season. Like I said, he can move a little bit. He's mobile. Accuracy, he could work on that a little bit. He had some really good playmakers. Don't get me wrong. We'll talk about the loss of Jonah Coleman at running back, who was a guy that I thought was really good last season and been there for a while. He's gone. Now, I will give Washington some credit here. I think that kid they got out of high school, is it Brian Bonner Jr.? I've heard about this kid. He's a recruit. I think he was a 4-star running back, highly touted out of high school. I think he'll play. I think he'll be getting snaps immediately. I don't know if he'll be the starter because they did bring in Oregon transfer. I think it's Jaden Lemar. If you guys didn't watch Oregon last year, well, I watched a ton of them. They used like 4 or 5 running backs last year. Oregon seems to have a slew of really good backs. He was one of them. He was a really good productive back for them. He's now with Washington. I think he'll be the starter, but I think you'll see this Bonner kid a lot in the backfield. And the other key loss, and you guys know this, and Washington fans felt this, was the loss of Denzel Boston. He's off to the NFL. Really good receiver. Was drafted fairly high, but they do have Desmond Roebuck back. This kid should put up some big numbers and fill that void. And then along with the tight end Decker DeGraff. So, like I said, I know they brought in they got a couple guys from the transfer portal as well. And I'm not going to name every player, but this offense this year, I think, should be pretty good. They retained 3 out of 5 offensive linemen. I think that's pretty good. That's 60% of your offensive line. Like I said, they're a pretty balanced team. I would assume they'd be the same way this year. I expect the offense to be just as good as it was last year. I really do. Maybe even a step better with Williams being back at the helm. Let's talk about defense. And this is where I have a little trepidation here. I'm a little worried. Last year, nobody knew this. Washington had a top 25 defense. They finished statistically in the top 30 in almost everything. I think 21st in total defense, which is a number I always look at. They only returned 3 starters. So, yes, they did hit the portal. I think they finished I think they were like 50th or something like that. Somebody else can throw it down in the comments, but in the transfer portal. But they did get some pieces there. It'll be interesting to see if they can kind of come together this year. So I'm a little worried there. I don't know if they'll be as good as they were last season. And the other question I had, and it was kind of funny, I talked about the Ohio State game. That was my biggest worry in that game early last year, is like, can Washington put any pressure on Julian Sand, right? And they really didn't. You let Sand sit back there and pick you apart, and he kind of did finally and got it together in the fourth quarter. Washington finished like 90th in sacks last year. They got to be able to get some edge rushers out there that can get to the quarterback. I think that's huge. You got to have a good O-line. You got to have a damn good D-line. We saw that with Miami last year, Ohio State, Texas Tech, Indiana, teams like that. If we want to get to that level and compete for national championships, playoff berths, you got to be able to get it done on the defensive line. It'll be interesting to see. I'm not saying Washington can't, but they got to generate more pressure. They did a good job forcing turnovers, but man, imagine if you can get to the quarterback, you get even more turnovers. Obviously, we know how that works. The offense gets more opportunities to score. So we'll see if that can happen this year. All right, I talked about that enough. Let's get into the game by game here. And I'm not going to lie to you guys. I think you guys are going to be a little shocked what I have Washington finishing here at the end of this video. I'm kind of excited. And before I get started here, Vegas, and if you guys don't know this, I'll talk about this real quickly. Vegas, the betting public, comes out with a number every single year. Obviously, gambling is really prevalent nowadays. Whether you gamble or not, I do over here on this channel a little bit. This number is a very good indicator. Usually they're fairly close. They have Washington winning 7.5 games. What that means is they think Washington's going to win 8 or 7 games, essentially. Now, you can bet on that. You can take the over or the under. Over, you think they're winning 8 or more games. Under, you think they're winning 7 or less. So that's how that works with the half. So with that being said, they start off the season here playing Washington State. What is Washington State? They played last year. Washington won this game pretty handily. Washington State, I kind of feel bad for them, and Oregon State, they kind of got left behind in the disbanded, Pac-12 back in the day, a couple years ago now. I don't see any way Washington State wins this game. Maybe this is a little closer. I know it's a rivalry game, but Washington's a better team, no doubt about that. So we're going to give Washington the dub there. Moving on, Utah State. I don't know a ton about Utah State, but what I do know is Washington's a better team. I got to pencil in a win there. I'm not going to spend too much time on that. We got issues if Utah State's beating Washington early in the year in week 2. And then we got Eastern Washington. I don't know if they played last year or not. Can't remember. Don't think it matters. Not going to spend much time there. We're going to talk about this one, though, because we get into Big Ten play. And the Big Ten this year, guys, I'm a Big Ten homer. I am a Nebraska fan, but I really follow the Big Ten. The Big Ten, in my opinion, has been the best conference past couple of seasons. I think they're going to be probably the best conference in the country again this year. We'll see with the SEC, but Minnesota is a weird team. They are a weird team. I watch my Huskers get their ass beat each and every week by them, or each and every year, not every week. Every year we play them. I think they beat my Huskers 5 out of 6 times, which is ridiculous. No shade against Minnesota, but they're a poor man's Iowa version. What I mean by that is they do not beat themselves. They will run the ball, and they play pretty good defense. They're a very physical team. They do nothing sexy, but it works with PJ Fleck and that offense and that defense over there. They do knock off a team or two every year that they're not supposed to. The good thing for Washington, they get this game at home. So we're penciling in a win here. Definitely the better team, but Minnesota is kind of one of those weird teams every year that you see at the end of the year win 7 or 8 games and ends up being a fairly tough team to play, just how it is. And then you go on the road here at USC. This is a tough one for me. If you guys know me at all, I can't stand Lincoln Riley. I have to try to throw my bias aside. I can't stand Lincoln Riley, not because I don't think he's a great coach. He's a great offensive coordinator. He's probably one of the best in the country, without a doubt, especially getting quarterbacks there. I think I could go through the whole list of quarterbacks he's had in his time at Oklahoma and USC, but the guy can't fund a defense, man. He's going on like year 10 and they just have no defense. And every year, every offseason, it's, yeah, we brought this D coordinator in and we brought these players in. We've changed the strength and conditioning program and the guys aren't going out to the club anymore. All this other shit every year. It's the same freaking thing. And every year I sit here and watch and I go, the defense still sucks. He's just not about it. It's a culture thing, man. Defense is a 1-2 thing, man. That's an effort thing. Until I see it, I can't believe it. Even though their offense is going to be really good this year, give me the win here for Washington on the road. I know I'm going out on a limb here. I know USC fans are be a little upset about this, but I got a win here for Washington. But then I have you losing Iowa. This one's tough for me. Iowa is a team who beats the hell out of Nebraska each and every year, like Minnesota. I just talked about that. I've seen a lot of Iowa football. They do nothing sexy either, but they will not beat themselves. Literally. You have to play almost a perfect game to beat Iowa. We watched Oregon last year in the rain, in the cold, in the wind, in Iowa City, win that game at the very end. And Oregon was a really good team, much more talented team than Iowa. Iowa played them super tough. You know who Iowa played really tough last year? The national champions. Incredibly tough. It took Indiana a fourth quarter in about 6 minutes to come back and win that game. Indiana fans know what I'm talking about there. Iowa's a tough team. They do lose some games to teams where you're kind of like, wow, why'd they lose that game? Iowa always seems to win 9 or 10 games every year. You look at them, you laugh on the schedule. Oh, they're not that sexy to watch. They're going to score, 14 points and win some game 13-6, but they're tough. And I think with that USC game and then trying to turn around and play Iowa, even though you get them at home, I think you drop that one to Iowa. I'm sorry, Husky fans. And you could flip-flop this around. And maybe I'm wrong about both of them. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they lose both of them. Maybe they win both of them. But for the purposes of this video, I got you going 1-1 through this stretch. Then you go on the road at Purdue. Purdue's probably going to be the worst team, I think, in the Big Ten this year. You should win that one. Then you got the much-needed bye week. And then you play my Huskers. And, yeah. I don't even know what to say here. I haven't done a Nebraska video, and I harp on my Huskers a lot. Nebraska isn't winning this game. Even though I know it's at home for Nebraska, Washington will be ranked at this point, and you guys know the tale here, right? Nebraska hasn't won a ranked game in like 11 years. They're 0-30. Matt Rule hasn't won a ranked game since his days at Temple. Washington will be ranked up into this point. This is a loss. Until I see Nebraska beat somebody ranked inside the top 25, I'll believe it then. This pains me to do. That's a win for Washington. Season looking pretty good here for Washington right now at this point. Now you got to play Penn State. Penn State, what are they going to be this year under Matt Campbell? I don't know. But what I do know is Penn State has always recruited well. I'm not going to talk about their season last year. I thought they played much better football at the end of the year after getting rid of James Franklin. And I think they had some internal issues going on there. But I think Washington wins this game as well. I really do. I think they pulled this one out. I think this is a tough game, but I like the fact that they're at home here. I'm giving you guys the dub. Washington looking really good at this point. Then you go on the road at Michigan State. Michigan State has been circling the toilet for the past couple of years here with the whole coach issues the past couple of years. It just hasn't worked out. Jonathan Smith didn't work out. Was it Mel Tucker? Is that the guy they had to run off and had that whole, I'm not going to get into that, but I mean, it's been a mess there, which is weird because Michigan State, a majority of my lifetime, has been a really good, solid football program. I hope they get back to that. I don't think it's going to happen this year, though, under Fitzgerald. So another win here for Washington. Holy shit. Washington might be in the top 10 at this point if this pans out the way I got it in here. But then you play the reigning national champs in Indiana. I don't think so. I'm very high on Indiana this year. Very high on them. I did a video. If you guys want to check that one out, I did it last week. I think you lose this one. And then you go on the road to Oregon. Another team that I'm very high on. Haven't done a video on them yet. I think you dropped this one as well, unfortunately. But mean, look at this schedule. Schedule's not easy by any means. You got probably a ranked USC team. Iowa could potentially be ranked at this spot. Obviously, Indiana, Oregon. I really don't know about Penn State, but relatively tough schedule here, man. I got you guys going 9-3. I already bet the over 7.5. I think a worst case scenario for the Huskies here in 2026 is probably 8-4. I do think maybe if things don't pan out on the defense and they're trying to get into shootouts with people, maybe you go 7-5 here. But I like an 8-4 as the floor. A ceiling, man, I maybe 10-2. I know that's a stretch. I don't want to shit on Husky fans. Like I said, I got a lot of respect for Washington. Their fans are usually pretty cool people on my channel. But I got you going 9-3 here. I don't think that's a bad year. I really don't. I actually think Washington might be a better team this year. The record just might not show it from last year. If you guys kind of know what I'm saying, it's a relatively tough schedule here. You know, this stretch right here, I think with these 3 games here is relatively tough. And then obviously even these last 5 games going on the road in Nebraska. Nebraska isn't the easiest place to play. It's loud there. You know, Penn State is I still think is going to be a solid program. You give Campbell a couple of years there, I think Penn State will be back to doing what they're typically doing. You'll see them inside the top 15. But then Indiana and Oregon, man, that's a tough 2-game stretch. Don't care who you are here in the country trying to play that back-to-back. Not an easy one there. So I like Washington going 9-3 in 2026. Let me know down in the comments if I'm right. Let me know if I'm wrong. I'd love to hear from you guys. Appreciate all the support, and we'll see you next time.